Say it again. If you wanted to move something large or heavy out of that basement without having to go through the main house, could you do that?
Yes, I mean, it would depend what it was, obviously, how big it was. Or
How would you do that?
there's a bulkhead door you can use.
Got it. Where does that bulkhead door come out of?
It comes out to the backyard right at the kitchen area. You can see it from the kitchen.
And right to the left of that is the side fence.
Yes.
And directly through that side fence is the front yard.
Yes.
The same side of the front yard as John O'Keefe's body was found.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask at this point to mark a video. I may have just a moment, Your Honor. Yes. May I, Your Honor? Yes. I would offer the following stipulation that on either September 23rd or September 24th, the Commonwealth sent a letter on Commonwealth letterhead to Mr. Albert's attention, stating exactly what was just read into the record pursuant to the court order dated September 23rd, 2022.
Okay. All right, next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Isn't it true that you were, in fact, ordered to preserve your cell phone by the Commonwealth?
At some point, I was made aware of that, yes.
All right, let's just get to the brass tacks. Where's your phone?
My phone was upgraded and traded in for a new phone.
Your phone was upgraded and traded in for a new phone?
Yes.
Okay. Another way to say that is you traded your phone in and got rid of it, correct?
I traded my phone and upgraded it, yes.
When did you get rid of your phone ending in 0888?
I upgraded my phone in September, third week of September, maybe around 22nd.
The 22nd of September?
I believe so. I can't be sure of the exact date.
So according to you, you got rid of the phone that was the subject of a court order preservation the day before it was ordered preserved, right?
Rephrase the question, please?
This order was just stipulated. This order is dated September 23rd, 2022. It was just stipulated that on the 23rd or 24th, you were then sent a notice to preserve the phone. And your testimony is on the 22nd, the day before this all happened, you upgraded your phone and got rid of it in total, correct?
I upgraded my phone on and around the 22nd, yes.
And you knew that all of the data on that phone would be factory reset and destroyed.
Objection.
Do you know that, sir?
I do not know that.
How many times have you upgraded your phone in your iPhone?
I'm not sure. 4 or 5 times, maybe.
You're aware that when you turn a phone in and you upgrade it, the phone that you turn in, that data is factory reset, meaning it's gone. It's destroyed off of that device, correct?
Well, I think some data transfers and some doesn't.
We're not talking about a backup. I'm talking about the physical phone. That physical phone becomes a brick when you turn it in, correct?
Correct that it becomes a brick? I don't know.
It becomes effectively a brick. There is no data left on the phone. I'm not talking about backup data onto a cloud. I'm talking about that phone.
So the old phone, yes.
Yeah. it's just everything on it's destroyed, correct?
Right, although some of the data transfers to your new phone.
And you're aware that the very data that you were ordered to preserve would have been destroyed, according to you, the day before. Correct?
Rephrase your question or ask me a question.
Are you claiming that you got rid of your phone on the 22nd?
I upgraded my phone around that. I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but yes.
So it could have been after the 22nd.
I don't think it was after the 22nd.
Could have been the 24th?
No.
Could have been the 25th?
No.
So you're absolutely sure that you could not have upgraded your phone and gotten rid of it anytime after the 23rd when this judge ordered that it be preserved?
No.
Because you know that if you got rid of that phone after you had been notified that you were ordered by a court to preserve it, you'd be committing a felony.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So you now claim that you got rid of the phone on September 22nd, 2022, hours before you were ordered to preserve it. That's your testimony, correct?
Yes.
Is that just a coincidence?
September 4th was my birthday. The phone was broken and failing. I had planned on getting a new phone, and that just happened to be the day that I got it.
Happy birthday. Was that a coincidence?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were asked at another hearing in June of 2023 that exact question, correct? Whether it was a coincidence. You remember that?
I don't.
You recall being asked, quote, so it's just a coincidence that within minutes, hours, or days.
Objection, Your Honor.
Let's hear the question first.
Within minutes, hours, or days of you trading in your phone, that phone you had in January of 2022, that you were ordered to preserve it. Answer, yes. Question, that's a coincidence? Answer, yes.
Objection. Move to strike.
I'll let that stand.
That was your testimony, wasn't it?
Yes.
And that's what you're saying today to these jurors. Just
Yeah.
a coincidence.
Yes.
Did you and Brian Higgins agree with each other that you were both going to get rid of your phones?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
You testified at the other hearing in June of 2022, quote, I don't recall saying that I was going to get rid of my personal phone to Brian Higgins. I may have said that. You know, there's personal stuff on my personal phone. I don't recall saying that to him, but I don't know. We had multiple conversations about things, end quote. Remember testifying to that?
Yes.
So you're not ruling out the fact that you may have told Brian Higgins that you intended to get rid of your phone, correct?
No.
You're not ruling out the fact that Brian Higgins may have told you that he intended to get rid of his phone.
No, I don't remember him saying that to me.
Your testimony was, quote, I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he was going to get rid of his phone or not, end quote. You testified to that, didn't you?
Yeah, I have no idea what he was going to do.
I'm asking, are those your words? Did you testify to that under oath?
Yes, although I don't know the context of the time that they were asking that question.
June of 2020.
No, not the date of the hearing, but when they were asking if and when that conversation took place.
Does it really matter when it took place?
I think so, yes.
Well, you talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of your phones. When do you think you had that conversation?
I don't think I talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of my phones.
Well, you just said you can't rule out the fact that you had conversations with Brian Higgins about your phones and possibly getting rid of your phones. Right?
No, I don't think that's what I said.
You two discussed the fact that you both wanted to get rid of your phones.
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins at all.
Your testimony was, quote, I know there were conversations about the phones, sir. Correct?
correct that that's what you read?
So if you're having conversations with Brian Higgins about the phones, what the heck were you talking about?
I don't know the timing of when they asked when those conversations were.
Mr. Albert,
So
I'm leaving it open to you. I don't care when it was. I'm asking you, have you ever had a conversation with Brian Higgins about your phones, respectively?
we may have, I can't remember that conversation specifically.
Then why, in June of 2023, did you testify, I know there were conversations about the phones with Brian Higgins, end quote?
I'm not sure of the context of that.
So now you just can't remember.
No, I don't think I could remember during that testimony either. I think if you read the whole thing, I think I said I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Your quote was, I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he said he was going to get rid of his phone or not, end
Right.
quote.
Right.
Does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
So now as you sit here and you answer my question, did you and Brian Higgins have a conversation about your phones?
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins.
All right, let's shift gears. Before I shift gears, you're aware that Brian Higgins has also gotten rid of his phone, correct?
I am not aware of that until after the time you're talking about.
So without qualifying your answer, answer my question. As you sit here, you're aware that Brian Higgins has also gotten rid of his phone.
I know at some point Brian Higgins,
Yes or no, Mr. Albert?
did he?
Objection, Your Honor.
Can you answer that, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I'd like to shift gears and talk a little bit about Michael Proctor. Did Michael Proctor come into your home at 34 Fairview on January 29th?
Yes.
Michael Proctor? Let me rephrase the question. I want to make sure I'm not talking about Officer Lang, Officer Good.
Right.
Michael Proctor from the Massachusetts State Police. Did he come into your home on January 29th?
He conducted an interview with my wife, and I don't remember if it was the 29th or the 30th. That's what you're asking.
Wasn't that interview on February 3rd?
I feel like it was earlier than that, but it could have been February 3rd.
Okay. Presume for purposes of my question that it was February 3rd that Michael Proctor interviewed your wife. Then he would not have come into your home on the 29th, 30th, 31st, 1st, or the 2nd.
Right.
And you know from your training, obviously, as a first responder, the first 48 hours of an investigation are absolutely critical, correct?
Objection.
Do you know that, sir?
In that context, I don't.
Okay. Next question.
I mean, you're aware there's a TV show called First 48.
Objection, Your Honor.
Assistant.
Do you think the first 48 hours of a criminal investigation are critical?
Objection.
You do know that the longer you wait to properly investigate anything, the better chance that evidence can be manipulated or destroyed, right? You would agree with that.
Yes.
Did an investigator or any forensics team ever come into your house, ever, to photograph your entire home?
No, I wish they had.
Did an investigator, yeah, me too.
Objection, Your Honor.
Assistant.
Did an investigator or a forensics team ever come into your house to search for physical evidence?
No.
Did an investigator or a forensics team ever come into your house to search for trace evidence?
No.
Did an investigator or forensics team ever come into your house to take carpet samples, flooring samples from the basement, for instance?
No.
And to this day, you're aware that that's never happened.
Yes.
Sir, you were in the Marines before you were a police officer, correct?
Yes.
You're a combat veteran?
Yes.
How long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years.
During the course of your Marine and military training, did you have any training in hand-to-hand combat?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
In addition to your Marine training on the subject, did you also receive additional training from the police department through the academy or otherwise on basic hand-to-hand combat?
No.
So that's not part of the academy?
Not hand-to-hand combat, no.
Fighting techniques, use of batons, things of that nature?
Defensive tactics.
Defensive tactics. Okay, that's fighting, right?
Well, it's not hand-to-hand combat, no.
Okay, fair enough. I may be using the wrong word. It's physical, it's training on how to either defend yourself or control another person physically.
Yes.
I mean, they're not going to send you out there on the streets completely ill-equipped. They need to know that you know how to defend yourself and how to put somebody in custody that doesn't want to be in custody, correct?
Yes.
And that might include fighting.
It could, yes.
And beyond your Marine training and your police training, you're independently trained in techniques of fighting.
Have I boxed before? Yes.
Okay. And you've trained in boxing. It's not like you just walk up and smack a heavy bag, right?
You'd have to rephrase it.
You've trained. You're a trained boxer. You're a trained fighter.
I've boxed in the past, and I've trained to box, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've hit a heavy bag,
Right.
but I'm not a trained fighter. You're a trained fighter.
All right, so there's an objection. You were standing, Mr. Lally.
Yes, Your Honor.
Jurors, disregard that. Mr. Jackson, no comments, just questions, please.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, your boxing skills were featured in a TV show that you were featured in as well, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
You were, in fact, no?
That they were featured in a show? No.
You were never shown on TV in a ring sparring with somebody?
I may have been shown training, but I don't think I was having a boxing match. No.
Okay, I wasn't suggesting that you were having like a paper. I was asking, is there a TV show that ever showed you in a ring boxing?
Well, that's not what you asked me, but if you're asking me that now, yes.
I'm asking you that now. I apologize. My questions are somewhat inartful.
Yes.
You understand the question now?
Yes.
And you have been shown, I use the word featured, you've been shown on television in a boxing ring,
Yes.
sparring.
I haven't seen the video in a while. I'm not sure if I was sparring.
If we can, Your Honor, with the court's permission, can we take a look at Exhibit 53?
Okay.
There's a clip starting at it's time of day 11:47 and 15 seconds to 11:48 and 35 seconds, maybe a minute and a half. Can you enhance that? Pause. Do you see the two men in the foreground?
Yes.
Who are those two men?
Looks like myself and Brian Higgins.
Does it look like yourself and Brian Higgins, or is that yourself and Brian Higgins?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We can go ahead and play that. Sorry. I've got one more clip to play, but I have a couple of questions, Your Honor. Would you,
Let's take it down and you can put the other one up after the questions.
Did you see what was displayed on that video?
Yes.
Had you seen that before?
Part of it, yes.
Is that what you and Mr. Lally went over in your preparation for your testimony?
I don't think that we went over it, but he showed me a quick clip of it.
When you say he showed you a quick look, did he ask you questions about it?
I don't think so, no.
Did you give him any answers about it?
No,
Any explanations?
no, just,
He just showed you the clip and?
yeah, he just said, yeah, it looks like we were fooling around.
Okay, so you did make an explanation, given him
Yeah,
an explanation for it.
right, I said, I think we were just fooling around.
Okay, it's the same thing you told us this morning, right?
Right,
Just fooling around.
yeah, just having fun with my friends and hanging out and fooling around.
Absolutely. What were you doing? Describe what you were doing.
Having fun with my friends, hanging out, just being silly.
Okay. Describe physically what you were doing in the video.
I was playing around, sort of getting in a boxing stance.
Okay. Otherwise known as a fighting stance, correct?
Yeah, for a second, yes.
Okay. And what did Brian Higgins do when you got into a fighting stance?
It looked like he was kind of doing the same thing.
Got into a fighting stance as well, correct?
Yeah.
What were you two talking about? You can tell you're talking.
Yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. We were just being silly, fooling around, having fun.
Were you giving him advice on the proper way to get into a fighting stance or a boxing stance?
No,
You giving him some advice or some indicators about how to best position himself if someone is taking an aggressive stance against him?
no.
Is he telling you what he thought was a good technique for fighting or boxing?
I don't think it was that serious. We were just playing, fooling around.
But both of you were in fighting stances facing off against each other, correct?
Yeah, for a second or two.
And Mr. Higgins, you saw him bob his head and then start walking toward you like a boxer might, correct?
Yeah, yes.
And then you got down, pulled your the pant legs up, and you squatted down to indicate getting low, having low center of gravity, correct?
That would know that's indicating being silly.
Okay. And
That's
then at
not.
some point, while you're being silly, you then faked a right punch toward him, correct?
I didn't notice that, but I'm not sure.
Can we take a look at the next part of this clip, which is at time of day 11:55 and 51 seconds. I'm sorry, 11:54 and 52 seconds. Pause it. And highlight it. Okay, there's several individuals crowded around a table. Can you describe where you are and where Mr. Higgins is?
Brian Higgins is the guy on the right with the hooded sweatshirt and the emblem on the back. I have a pointer. Do you want me to use it?
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So that's Brian Higgins, and that's me.
Okay, go ahead and play this. Pause. You see what you just did?
Yes.
What'd you do when you slapped his right arm?
What did I do?
What did you do? What are you doing?
It looks like I'm just being silly, fooling around.
Okay, I'm going to ask you for a little bit more physical description. What are you doing? Why are you grabbing him from behind?
I don't really know.
Is that a wrestling hold?
No,
Is
I
that
don't
a
think.
control hold?
No, I don't think so.
Is that some sort of a control hold that you've used in the past?
Bear hugging somebody? No.
Okay.
That's just a silly fooling around with my buddy.
Let's go ahead and play this. Stop it. You see what Mr. Higgins just did?
I did, yeah.
When you let him go, what did he do?
I don't know. He did some kind of, I don't know, he pretended to knee me or something.
Knee to the abdomen?
Yeah, I don't know if it made contact or not, but
Mr. Albert, I'm not suggesting by my questions that you two are actually in a fight.
right.
I'm asking what he's doing. Does it seem to
Yeah, I don't.
you that he's playing like or practicing like techniques in fighting.
I don't know what his intent was. It looks like he's just fooling around, just like I was.
But if a grown man walks up to you, grabs you from behind, and puts a knee up to your solar plexus, that's probably not the same as a high five, right?
What is your question?
In other words, it looks like he's practicing some sort of fighting technique.
Practicing? That's not how I see that.
How would you describe it?
I would just describe it as him fooling around. We're in the bar together. We're good friends, and we're just being silly and fooling. That's all.
There's a number of people in that bar. You would agree with that?
Yes.
You see anybody else in that video at any time getting physical with one another?
Objection.
How much of this video have you actually watched?
Not much.
Okay, then let me ask a different question. From your memory of that night, who are the only two people in the bar that seem to be getting physical with one another?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Sure. The only person I remember being physical with was fooling around with Brian.
Okay, play it just a little bit longer. Almost finished. Let me take that down. Did you see the rest of that video?
Yes.
No question that you two are being friendly with one another, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with that?
Yes.
But there's also no question that of all the people in that bar, the only two people that appear to be imitating fighting are you and Mr. Higgins, correct?
In that video, yes.
And, is there another video?
Well, no, I just don't know what everybody else was doing in the bar.
Do you remember anybody else? You know, Julie Albert or
I don't remember.
Nicole getting into a scrap with someone?
No.
No, it's just you two, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Albert, this is minutes before everybody headed to your house at 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
Including John O'Keefe.
Yes.
By the defendant. It was then shown to a witness, which is perfectly permissible. Counsel asked a question of Ms. McCabe on cross, and she was aware of the material based on the late disclosure of reciprocal discovery. So there's no violation there. As it relates to, and why I say laughable, Your Honor, is that I am still...
I don't like hearing you say laughable. Just
Understood.
Stick to what the arguments are. And
With respect to this witness...
Hold on. Quit the finger pointing, name calling, things like that, please.
Yes.
I know it's been a long week. It's been a particularly long day, but just focus on what you want to argue to me.
And I apologize to the court for that, Your Honor. With respect to this testimony, it's well within his realm as a crash reconstructionist. This is a witness who's responded to and investigated hundreds of crashes involving damage to vehicles. Simply making an observation of contact between two vehicles or purported contact between two vehicles on a video. The force is self-evident, and whether or not that force is sufficient to cause the damage that he personally observed on the defendant's vehicle is well within his expertise. And should be permissible as far as for this witness to be able to testify to.
What about the non-disclosure to the defense? So showing this video and asking for an opinion. What about that?
So, Your Honor, what I would say is I did not show this video and ask this opinion. This is a video that actually the trooper mentioned to me that he had seen over the course of while the case was pending, probably over a year ago, that he had seen that video. What I showed him was the photographs of Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle and asked whether or not he observed any damage consistent with the damage to the taillight observing or popping up on Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle.
Why wasn't that turned over?
In hindsight, it should have been, Your Honor.
All right. So it's late. I'm not ruling here. I want to review everything. I would like, I'm not obviously taking any of the evidence home with me. I would like, if it's possible, for what your IT person did on the expanding, like he did this second time, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see the tire move this time. So I'd like that. I'd like that video, and I would like What's the exhibit number here?
It's Exhibit 6. Do you want just that video, Your Honor?
And the pictures of the cars, whatever was shown during this voir dire, I would like those emailed to me so that I can look at them this weekend while I'm deciding, or put them on a flash drive right now.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We'll do a screen record and get it to the court by email. We can do that. I just need an hour once we get back to home base.
Okay. All right, Ms. Gilman, will you burn what you have for me before we leave somehow?
Your Honor, if I could, I just want to close one loop.
Okay.
What I was referring to with Ms. McCabe, I want to make sure that this is clear because this has come up a couple of times. Date is now February 2nd, 2022. A person by the name of Doc writes, "Is that chick a smoke?" Correct?
Correct.
Who's the chick?
Miss Reed.
And you write E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write nutbag, as Chief would say, correct?
Correct.
Who's Chief?
A friend of mine.
And then you write what?
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
Trooper Proctor, explain to the jurors what a balloon knot is.
Your essentially, I guess, your rectum area.
Your anus?
Yes.
That's what you were referring to about Miss Reed?
Yes.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked? That's how you were treating Miss Reed? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you followed that up just to make sure you cleared up any mistake about what you meant with leaks poo, correct?
Objection.
All right, so I'm going to strike that. You could get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
You followed that up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Again, another reference to Miss Reed's medical issues and medical conditions, correct?
Correct.
Specifically focused on her anus, correct?
In reference, yes.
Were you aware at the time that you wrote this that Miss Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery, very serious surgery?
I was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months, several years prior? 10.
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that she had serious medical issues, gastrointestinal medical issues that she suffered with, she was a victim of for years? Did you know that?
Objection.
Sustained.
But you decided that you're going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy. 1 second, sir. I'm sorry. You decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy as a balloon knot, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
At this point, Trooper Proctor, Miss Reed was just reduced to a punchline to you, wasn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you weren't done yet. This chat doesn't end yet, does it?
No, sir.
Let's skip to 2543. On the same date, February 2nd, 2022, about 4:15 p.m., a person by the name of Whitey wrote, "What are you guzzling on?" Correct?
Yes.
And you wrote, "Nothing, writing a warrant." Is that right?
Correct.
Whitey then shares some sort of a video, correct?
Yes.
You remember that video being of the 1980s band Warrant?
I don't recall the video he sent.
0095 laughed and then wrote, "Wait, why does her asshole leak? Correct?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And then what did Doc write in response to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. I'll see you, sidebar. Take that down, please.
You are unmuted.
Without
that-
reference to
Take that down.
without reference to the specifics of what was.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar.
Sure.
You are unmuted.
Trooper Proctor, without getting to the specifics of the words used in the following, in the next exchange that you're looking at, it's fair to say that your high school buddies then continue to discuss Ms. Reed's medical issues, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson. That isn't what you said you'd ask. Go ahead and ask the question you said you'd ask.
Was there a continued discussion that finished on this subject matter?
Yes.
On Monday, you indicated that your conduct in this case, and specifically your conduct as reflected in these messages, how did you put it? It did not affect the integrity of the investigation, of your investigation, correct? That's what you
Correct.
said to the jurors.
Correct.
Do you know what the definition of integrity is?
Doing the right thing when no one's looking.
It means the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you believe that integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles?
I believe that's part of it as well.
Do you stand by that testimony that you were showing strong moral principles in this investigation, sir?
In the investigation part, absolutely. Through these text messages, absolutely not. They were juvenile and regrettable.
And with respect to the sort of first page of that, is there also, similar to the ones I showed you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, is there a listing as far as the participants in that conversation?
Yes.
And who does it say?
It's Karen Reed and Katie Camerano.
May I approach again?
Yes.
I'm about to seek to introduce in a minute the next exhibit.
No objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, then.
Cameron, returning what's now been marked as Exhibit 52 to you. And Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would publish this on the screen for the jury as well.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Camerano, if I could direct your attention to sort of the content of this. There's blue bubbles and green bubbles, is that correct?
Correct.
And is there an indication on there as far as who the message is from and who the message is to?
The blue bubbles would be me texting Karen.
And if you could, starting with the first bubble on page 1, if you could just describe to the jury, and we'll sort of go through it, as far as who the text is from and what the content is.
That's from me. I'm asking Karen, are you okay?
And, Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down. And this next bubble.
Go back home so you're safe with Kaylee. He will end up home. I bet he's on someone's couch.
And the next bubble down, Ms. Gilman.
What's going on, Karen?
If you could scroll down a little further, Ms. Gilman.
I'm driving around with Kerry and Jen.
And this is the text that you received from
From-
Ms. Reed to yourself.
Yes.
And is there a time on that associated with when that text was sent?
I can't read that from there. 5:53, does it say?
5:53 a.m., is that correct?
Oh, 5:53, yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down to the next message.
Okay, is one of them driving?
And just to be clear, this is you texting. Ms.
I'm
Reed.
texting Karen, yes. Is one of them driving? And then,
And why were you texting that, or why were you concerned about that?
because she was so hysterical, I didn't want her driving.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down to the next message. And what, if any, response did you receive from Ms. Reed?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, scroll down to the next.
And I said, okay, keep me posted.
Gilman, if you could, scroll down.
At his brother's or mom's, ? Or the station he works at.
Both of those messages, about what time were those?
6 a.m.
And what, if any, Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down, and then what, if any, response did you receive from the defendant, Ms. Reed, following those texts?
I don't think so. His bro is in West Bridgewater, W. Bridgewater.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down again. The next message, ma'am.
Right, I'm sorry, I'm just brainstorming.
The next green bubble, ma'am.
It's okay.
And the blue bubble below that.
Any luck?
And that was a text you sent at approximately what time now?
6:34.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down to the next one. And what was Ms. Reed's response?
He's dead.
And again, at what time did you receive that text message from
6:34.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down again.
What, Karen? Are you serious?
That's a blue bubble, your response to the last statement.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down again.
And then, Karen, do you have any idea where he is, or did you find him?
Lastly, Ms. Gilman, if you could scroll down one more time.
He was in the snow.
And that last message that you received, what time was that?
That was at 6:36.
Chairman, you can take that down. And Mr. Officer, if you could collect that. Thank you. Following that text message, the last one about 6:34 a.m., what, if any, other communication did you have with the defendant that morning?
Nothing.
What, if any, other communication did you have with the defendant since then?
None.
Now, as far as any of the other people that you spoke of, as far as talking to that morning, Ms. Roberts or Kaylee, did you have any further conversation with them in regard to what was going on?
No.
If I may have just one moment, Your Honor.
The first two lines to the jury, please.
Yep. On Saturday, January 29th, 2022, Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Buchanan of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office responded to the unattended death of John O'Keefe at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Through his investigation, it was found O'Keefe was a victim of a motor vehicle homicide. While on scene, Trooper Proctor secured O'Keefe's phone and brought it to the Norfolk DA's office for forensic analysis.
Okay. So you'd agree with me that you included that clause. While on scene, they secured his phone. Did you not?
I did write that.
Okay. And that was back on February 4th of 2022, correct?
Yes, it was.
Within 6 days of John O'Keefe being found mortally wounded on Albert's lawn, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, you knew that the crime scene was 34 Fairview Road, correct?
No.
Yet you put in your report while on scene, did you not?
Yes, I don't know what scene they recovered from. I know they went multiple places on the 29th. They didn't get back to me till 7:30 that night almost,
Okay.
when I first got the phone.
Well, you'd agree with me that the Canton Police Department wasn't the crime scene, correct?
I never said crime scene in my report. I wrote scene.
Okay. Well, Canton Police Department was not the scene of any crime, was it?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
You don't know if the Canton Police Department was the scene of a crime. Is that
I don't
what
think it was.
You don't think it was? Okay. Now, in that report, you were trying to establish the chain of custody of that phone, right? Because you described where it was found, where it was taken, and who had possession of it, correct?
I said it never said where it was taken. I said the phone was recovered on scene by Trooper Proctor. Again, I don't know where it was recovered from. I did find out later it was at Canton PD.
Well, hold on a second. We're focusing on your report.
I know, I'm reading it.
As opposed to details you want to fill in now, okay?
Okay.
With regard to, you just testified that you never said where it was taken, yet previously you said it was taken to you, was it not?
No, I said recovered from, but the scene location.
Did Trooper Proctor take the phone to you and
Yes.
hand it to you?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so it was taken to you, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So you described in your report where it was found because you said while on scene, correct?
Correct.
And where it was taken to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And who had possession of it, which was initially Trooper Proctor in terms of your observations, and then you, correct?
That is who brought me the phone to the DA's office, yes.
And you would agree with me that chain of custody of a piece of evidence is an important detail in any criminal investigation, isn't it?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that someone reading your report or listening to it as the jury listened today would understand you to be saying that Michael Proctor seized John O'Keefe's cell phone at 34 Road in Canton?
Objection.
All right. I'd like to ask you some questions about the extraction that you discussed in that same February 4th, 2022 report, the very same report. In that report, after you name the tools that you used to extract data from the phone, you indicated that a copy of that cell phone extraction was placed on a state police server, or was it a DA's office server?
DA's office server.
Okay, on a server so that it could be accessed there, correct?
That is correct.
But that extraction you placed on the server did not include all the potential data on John O'Keefe's phone, did it?
How do you mean?
Well, didn't you indicate in your report that the extraction was not inclusive of all potential data contained within the device?
No, that's not true.
Well, the extraction that you did contained communications, iOS messages, phone calls, social media communications between John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I had previous. I don't know if I said, oh, yes, but my answer was yes. Of course, I had previous
and-
relationships with them.
I'm sorry, I cut you off, sir.
I'm saying, of course, I had previous relationships with them.
And the question that I wanted to direct you to, just to put it in context, was did either of them, speaking about John and Karen, on this particular evening seem sort of overly intoxicated to you? Do you recall that question?
I don't recall the specific question, but if that's the question.
And your answer was no to that?
Yes, if that's my answer, then it was no.
In terms of whether you can confirm that that was the question and answer, if I showed you the transcript, would that refresh your memory?
Yes, of course it would.
This is 2103, lines 13 to 15 for counsel. And I didn't ask permission, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Did either of them? Thank you.
Having reviewed that transcript, did I get the question and answer correct?
Yes, you did.
Okay, just a couple more things about the waterfall. I wanted to ask you about Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, sir.
Yes.
They were both there that night while you were there, correct?
Yes, they both were there.
And they are both pretty big guys, correct?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Yes, they're good sized guys.
Did you see Brian Albert and Brian Higgins practicing fighting at the waterfall?
Practicing fighting?
Right. Did you see them kind of square up in a fighting stance to each other?
I recall them grabbing each other. I don't recall them squaring up like they were fighting each other. No, they were playing a little grab ass with each other. I did see them grab each other. I don't recall a physical, hey, let's go duke it out. I do not recall that.
Okay. So are you saying, taking you literally, that they grabbed each other's asses? Is that it?
No, I'm saying grab ass. It's a figure of speech.
Okay. But what they didn't grab each other. They were in a fighting stance, weren't they? Didn't they crouch down low with each other?
I'm telling you, I don't recall seeing them crouching in a fighting stance. I recall someone grabbing somebody. I don't remember who grabbed who. I just recall like a bear hug or something. I thought I recall them doing a bear hug.
All right. So you recall them, one of them getting behind the other one and kind of restraining them or grabbing them?
I think there was a bear hug, yeah. That's what's in my memory. I don't.
And you would agree with me that after closing time, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were two of the people who went back to 34 Fairview Road, the Albert home, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But before everyone left, before you left, it was announced around the table that everyone was welcome back at Brian Albert and Nicole Albert's house, correct?
Yes.
Karen Reed and John O'Keefe were both there when that invitation was announced, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree that it was expected that Karen Reed and John O'Keefe would go to the Albert home that night, correct?
If they wanted to come, they were welcomed, yes.
And that plan would have been for them to go inside the Albert home, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what time you left the waterfall?
I left the waterfall after midnight, give or take 12:10, 12:15-ish. I don't know the exact specific time. Well, a little before 12:15, but definitely 12:10ish, 12:15ish in there.
And you were one of the last to leave the waterfall?
Yes, as I had mentioned, Nick Kolakikis and I walked out together from the waterfall.
Your wife, Jennifer McCabe, had walked out of the bar physically before you did, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you actually met her in the parking lot?
She was already in the vehicle in the parking lot, correct?
And then you got into the car to drive to the Alberts home, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So I'm going to ask you about the ride back to the Alberts home in a bit, but right now I want to skip to when you got there, okay?
Okay.
When you first got there, your wife parked your vehicle in the driveway, correct?
Yes.
Which side of the driveway did she park your vehicle in?
As I mentioned yesterday, I don't recall if it was immediately on the left, meaning the left towards the lawn, or if she was in the next spot over. She pulled in. I don't remember exactly if it was here or one spot over, but she pulled
How many cars were
into
in the driveway at that time?
at least two. I don't recall if there was more than two.
So if there was at least two, those two would have been parked abutting the garage area? In other words, would they be, let me rephrase. So there are two lanes in that driveway, correct?
My recollection, there's two lanes, but there is more space I know when we go over and we've gone over, there's more space to kind of park three cars.
Right?
To the right, correct.
Okay.
But we weren't to the right. We were either left or middle.
You were behind one vehicle, whichever lane you were in, or were you pulled right up to one of the garage entrances?
I don't recall if we pulled all the way in or not, but I don't remember.
So there were at least two vehicles in the driveway before you got there, correct?
In the driveway?
Yes.
Yes, there were cars in the driveway.
And when you parked in the driveway, fair to say that there was no black SUV at the Alberts home?
Are you referencing Karen's SUV? I don't know what color the Albert's cars were.
Oh, okay.
Are you referencing their SUV?
Put it this way. Yes, I'm referencing Karen's SUV.
That was not at the home.
And that was not in the driveway, correct?
Karen's SUV was not in the driveway.
And it was not adjacent to the property or on the street anywhere that you could see?
Correct. It was not there.
All right, but you say that there was a Jeep in the street at that time, correct?
There was a Jeep parked in front of the end of the driveway in front of the mailbox.
And that Jeep belonged to Brian Higgins?
I found out it belonged to Brian Higgins. I didn't know it was his Jeep when I arrived.
And it had a plow on the front of it?
Yes, it did.
It was parked adjacent to the Alberts property on Fairview, facing up the hill toward Chapman Street, correct?
Yes.
And at the time that you arrived, that was the only vehicle that was parked on Fairview Street adjacent to the Albert property, correct?
Yes.
And your testimony is that that Jeep remained parked in front of the Albert house, just to the left of the driveway as you faced the house, until Brian Higgins finally left and drove it away at the end of the night, correct?
That's my recollection, was his Jeep was out in front of the mailbox.
With the court's permission, could we display Exhibit 66?
Okay.
So, Mr. McCabe, I'm highlighting for the spotlight the front of the Alberts home. When I get to the point where the Jeep was parked, can you stop me? And you can adjust it right or left if I go too far.
Objection, Your Honor.
Can we have him use the laser pointer first and then?
Sure. Hope you're better than I
Yeah.
am. May I, Coach?
I was hoping I didn't have
Oh,
to
you
do
have the
this.
other laser pointer.
I don't have one.
That's fine.
No.
You could, yeah, please.
The Jeep was right there. From the edge of the driveway, to right there. I believe it was a two-door Jeep.
Okay, it looks like part of the Jeep would have been blocking the driveway.
Nope. Where the mailbox is, The Jeep was right there. It was not blocking the driveway.
I'm gonna step a moment.
Sure.
The mailbox that's spotlighted there, would that have been where the back of the Jeep was?
Yeah, the back would have been right in the vicinity of the edge of the driveway in the mailbox.
I see, so it wasn't blocking the driveway at all when you saw it?
No,
And it was facing to the left as we look at Exhibit 66, correct?
facing, heading to the left of the house, correct.
We can have the lights back on.